Welcome back, everyone. The stories for this week is brought to you by Black Squirrel. Pen test networks from your browser. Exploit the limits of network security through just a browser. Have a Chrome exploit in your toolkit. Good. For the rest of us, there's Black Squirrel. Visit blacksquirrel.io for more information. Anapsys is the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure even their SAP and Oracle business critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at anapsys.com. And by Tenable Network Security, the creators of Nessus, the world's best vulnerability scanner. Check out the new Nessus Enterprise and Nessus Enterprise Cloud and engage your IT department in the vulnerability management process today. Visit them on the web at tenable.com. Welcome back, everyone. We're here to talk about the stories for this week. Jack, what do you got? You got a cocktail for me, which always helps.
I have
stories go better.
Manhattan of
yes, thank
sorts.
You. Of sorts.
It's got that and that. It is primarily Templeton rye.
It's good, smooth. Templeton rye, smooth.
Splash of bullet rye for the little sharpness that brings. And again, some orange bitters and some Angostura aromatic bitters, and ice cubes because I'm being bad. Because
you didn't have a shaker.
We didn't have buckets of ice to chill the glasses and then chill the drink. And
then,
You know. But yeah, I think episode 400 I'll bring more than I brought the last 2 weeks ago.
Good Lord, we're gonna be drunk.
We'll just bring cots and
sleeping bags
and
yep.
binkies. But I want to horrify people with my first story because I read this and maybe it is from doing stuff on the Shoulders Project and the talks I've done on the history of InfoSec, and maybe it's working with the team that I work with, which includes Space Rogue and Marcus Ranum. But there was an article on why would you want to use Windows for Internet of Things anyway. And it wasn't, dear Lord, don't do it. It was kind of, it's everything wrong with information security. And it may actually be the right, air quotes, answer for you, but it really brings up a challenge on how we got to where we are now, which was that if you go back 40 years, we had systems which were arguably securable. I'm not saying they were secure, I'm not that naive, but things like Multics and early Unix and early Cray systems, they sort of figured out what they had done wrong, and it was possible, and there were great things like the Ware report and the Anderson report, and the provably secure operating system that Newman did, that work, and Bob Abbott's Resos stuff. And then we hit this intersection of global interconnectivity and multi-purpose computing, which drove consumerization, which drove commoditization, and that's how we get where we are now. And so you think, why on earth would you want to use Windows for embedded appliances? And part of me is screaming, you absolutely don't. That's idiotic. You want to use, QNX or whatever you think. And then on the other hand, nobody knows how to write for that stuff. So just go ahead and use Windows for a single function device, and we're all screwed anyway.
That was uplifting.
How's that for optimism? That's well, all right. Tell you what, let's jump right to your story number one, Mr. New Things on the freaking Internet.
Welcome to Paul Security Weekly. This is October 23rd, 1998. I'm here today to tell you about a Telnet D vulnerability.
Oh, dear deity. At least this was from somebody that has no reason to know better, right? I mean, this has got to be some no-name company that hasn't learned anything in the past 40 years, right? Please?
Well, it's Cisco, so that's debatable.
That's all right. The great thing about that is this one can stay in your pen test toolkit forever because nobody updates that stuff.
As many of us well know, that a lot of
TFTP what?
A lot of the Cisco stuff is based on BSD, which is where this vulnerability stems from originally. And there's some interesting.
Was fixed in BSD when?
So it is so the FreeBSD Telnet daemon implements the server side of Telnet Virtual Terminal Protocol. It has been disabled by default in FreeBSD since August of 2001 due to its lack of cryptographic security in the Telnet protocol, which is why we're broadcasting from 1998 in order to tell you these things. It's strongly recommended that the SSH protocol be used as well. I heard SSH is gaining in popularity at this point. Was it around in 98? I don't know. When did SSH? Someone hit the Googles and tell me when SSH first.
Yeah, so someone get into their TARDIS or DeLorean and drive forward in time and tell me when SSH is no longer an option on all network gear where they want you to pay more for the crypto pack. Oh, wait.
Are we?
I don't know. You know what? I could be wrong. Maybe they've solved that problem. I don't.
Oh, this is an iron port? Cisco's iron port.
Yeah. It's a good thing nobody uses that for anything important other than all of their damned email.
It's vulnerable to an old. All right, so iron port's vulnerable to an old FreeBSD Telnet the encryption key ID buffer overflow, which allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code stemming from CVE 2011-4862. That's right, folks, 2011. Yes.
All right. So So this is actually on iron port, so it's not iOS, but still, I'm sure people. Never mind. Just really.
So FreeBSD stopped using Telnet obviously a long time ago, like when many of us were in elementary school, except for Jack, who was already interested in AARP card at that point. But
thank you.
That's neither here nor there. The vulnerability was around since 2001, as I said. Just how does old code creep its way into systems like this? It's a failure to communicate, in my opinion. I believe that this behavior will go on forever so long as developers are taught to reuse code. Maybe, just maybe, we should stop telling them to do that. I don't know.
So
that sounds drastic, I know, because there is some validity
I'm
to code
torn.
reuse.
I don't know. The problem is, do we want them to create new problems by writing new code? Or would we like familiar problems? And I'm not going to throw rocks at most developers because they're not, as we've said for years and years and years, developers are generally not paid to write secure code. They are paid to write code. And they are paid to write code quickly and ship code. And so, you can use terms like technical debt and whatever, but that doesn't mean anything. It works, ship it. It doesn't work well or reliably or securely, but that's not part of the specification. And until that changes, I don't know how we get away from this. It's just terrifying.
I think a lot of it comes down to the software development lifecycle, but what that means is careful planning when you're writing software. And unfortunately, in today's fast-moving world of technology, there's just, it really comes down to time. There's just not enough time to be able to develop software for that long, because if you take too much time, by the time you're done, either your software is already obsolete when you release it, or a competitor or new competitor has come out and released software that does exactly what you were going to do, and has released it 3 to 6 months
but poorly and
insecurely,
insecurely, but they beat you to market, and so they win, because we've seen that too.
So it's very much
I wish it were as straightforward as back decades ago when I was a mechanic, because whenever you screwed up a job, when you were paid flat rate, you did the same job again. You fixed your screw up, and you did not get paid your labor.
Yeah.
You didn't get paid your labor
because
you're a flat rate. And so we always heard, there's never enough time to do it right the first time, but there's always enough time to do it right the second time, and it's on your own dime. And that's not the way developers get paid, and I'm not necessarily saying it should be, but the people above the developers are trying to ship code, and it gets farther and farther up the food chain, and and then it gets into like deep conversations, and even Paul and I haven't had enough to drink to get that deep in philosophy or whatever. But
So, just for some perspective here, as our crackpot production assistants have pointed out to us, the crackpot research team we have here at Security Weekly, SSH version 1.x was released in 1995 by a researcher's name who I can't pronounce at Helsinki University of Technology. Towards the end of 1995, the SSH user base had grown to 20,000 users in 50 countries. But apparently not at Cisco, even to this day. So there we have it. 1995, Jack. I was just graduating high school. You were grandpa by then?
I was getting my first set of Depends.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chris was 5. Nice. Very nice. That makes me feel old now, Chris. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to grow an old gray beard like Jack now.
A lot of folks know the reference point is December of 1979. There's a before after there, because that's the last time I shaved. So that's my benchmark.
Nice.
That's right. You're younger than my beard, kiddo. Both of you over there. Get off my lawn.
I was like 2 when you started growing your beard, dude. I was at least alive when you started growing your beard.
That's the game. Older than Jack's beard or younger than Jack's beard.
Does that mean I get to be curmudgeon-y because I am, in fact, older than your beard? And people that are not don't get to be.
In this biz, that you're getting to be up there,
I am.
Sonny. You know.
Shit, I'm going to have to work on my I'm going to have to work on my grumpiness, but it's a good thing I have, like, the world's best mentor for grumpiness and curmudgeonness sitting right here next to me.
We've got some real mentors available for you.
We do, yes.
We do. Jericho's available for consulting, and Marcus is available, and
Space Rogue
is available, and that's. We can talk to Mike Rothman. Although Mike is getting happy in his old age. He's trying to focus on.
He was pretty optimistic the last I spoke. Yeah,
he's turned the corner, and he's like, he's got young kids though, and like you do, and he's trying to be an optimist instead of a bitter old man. But I don't know.
And the drugs help too, I think.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding,
it's Mike. If your happiness lasts over 4 hours.
See a doctor about that. Jack would know. Jack's going to tell us more about his stories of joy and wonder.
So, just a couple of quick one. Well, one quick one. My third story, Windows root certs. It's not just Windows. It's fun to throw rocks at them, but just another case of the root certificate authorities being added by people that may or may not let us do anything with it. So, the government of Hungary, government of Saudi Arabia, the government of the United States, and the government of Japan have root CAs that have been installed to the Windows root certificate program. And let me just run down that list again. Hungary, Saudi Arabia, USA, and Japan. I would be willing to bet that somebody anywhere on this planet could find one of those 4 governments to not trust.
You know why they don't put them in Canada? Because then it'd be a CAA, and then people would get confused as to what the acronym was.
I can't make fun of Canadians this week. They had a...
Love you, Canadians.
Love you, Canadians. They handled a single psycho terrorism incident yesterday in a way that...
was that your presentation at Sector?
No.
Oh, come on, that one was pretty funny. I was on it.
But no, the reaction to the shootings in Ottawa yesterday was kind of like what the U.S. would have used to have done years ago, instead of like panicking and putting cops in tanks. So anyway, enough of that. Yeah, right. Let's see, where else to go? Rob Graham?
Here I am calling you old, and I'm sitting here smoking a pipe.
That's right.
Pot calling the kettle black.
So Rob Graham, for those of you who missed this, or late last week, beginning of the week, I don't know. Rob Graham took a shot at For those of you who saw it, the FBI talking head basically is calling for Clipper Chip 2 without saying that. Double think. Basically saying that because everybody with all together now, because pedophiles and because terrorism, things like iPhones finally having crypto that means Apple can't break your shit is a bad thing, and now pervs and terrorists are going to run the world because I don't know, because perhaps they with targeted investigations, they could do what they did to take down Silk Road, which was hack one guy. And although that one's another interesting legal argument. But yeah, arguments about crypto doublethink. It's interesting that our government wants to be secure, but wants to keep us from those things, and is really sounds like they're asking for backdoors in our crypto. Backdoors, those always work out well because nobody ever finds them. So the FBI, doesn't care about your privacy or your security. Is the way it comes down to it. They're not supposed to be the enemy. And every time I hear something this stupid, it really makes me frustrated because we know folks in the FBI who are hardworking people who are busting their asses doing jobs that don't get the visibility and publicity and thanks they deserve. And then somebody says something like this, who happens to be at a political level, and makes it easy to be dismissive of FBI. So Rob Graham has a great post, as he often does, deep take on things, and that was good.
Love his blog.
He's good. He's good.
It's got to be one of my favorite blogs out there. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and his topics vary pretty greatly, I think, from somewhat technical all the way up to privacy, political, and everything in between, it seems. So,
Indeed. Do you want to?
Oh God.
Where do you want to go?
I want to go to Google goes beyond two-step verification with a new USB security key. I have to say, I'm probably one of the more optimistic people about two-factor authentication. Although now Jack tells me I'm getting old, so I need to knock that shit off. However, though, I am willing to sacrifice some usability for security because security is what I do. However, how do you get two-factor authentication from a USB key to translate to your tablet or phone? Now, us nerds can do that. Like the Pwn phone, you can plug USB devices into it. Chris is raising his hand. You got to speak in the microphone, though, Chris, if you're going to talk. That's all I ask. NFC, Chris says, because he was talking into the wrong microphone. That's okay, though. He's going to enable the microphone just to say NFC.
It's on now. NFC.
And he's still talking in the wrong microphone. Nick is kindly pointing out Chris's microphone to him. You know what, Chris? Maybe you should stick to behind the microphone.
So Chris says NFC.
NFC.
All that, so Chris could say NFC. So do you take your USB token and put it near your phone? Does your USB token need
Wait,
NFC?
I've yet to see an NFC to USB adapter, but maybe I've looked there.
How does this work, Chris?
Well, I have one, a YubiKey.
A YubiKey.
And it has NFC.
And the YubiKey has an NFC chip inside the USB key.
Right.
Okay. But that means it's a USB and an NFC
Right.
in one. That's a much better solution.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you do when you want to authenticate? You just move your YubiKey near your phone.
Yeah, it has to be like
Not an iPhone before 6.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it has to
Or a Samsung from 1998 or whatever. They had NFC first.
If your Samsung still has Telnet D running on it, it's too old.
But so many of us rely on our phones to check email, so I like the YubiKey solution that Chris mentioned for that reason, as it contains both. The other thing, too, is Macs only come with one USB port if you're lucky, 2 if you're lucky, 1 usually standard, and that's usually occupied by something else. And then so if I have
USB hub,
yeah,
right?
a USB hub, which you have to then break out your USB hub and then plug in USB hub and then plug in your key to it and plug in your mouse or whatever else, keyboard, whatever else to it, and then you can authenticate. I mean, even for me, that's too much of an inconvenience. At the end of the day, we're all lazy. And that is why two-factor authentication never really catches on. I think that Larry's RFID chip, which he implanted in his hand, is maybe the best solution for
I
all
still
of us.
cringe that the snapping sound of that.
Dude, I was there.
That-
I was like holding the skin.
I was 100 miles away, and I was still like,
I was like holding the forceps, dude.
I was commuting to work when I heard that.
That is probably, no, not even probably. That is the most serious I've ever seen Larry, is during that. And we filmed it, too.
I know.
I haven't watched that in a long time. That's very
Speaking of having
nostalgic
been
moment.
on the air 9 years. you know.
Yeah, it's a very nostalgic moment.
Because I've only been more or less regular for what 3.5. Well, I've only been more or less regular. I've only been a
Is that the Metamucil that you have to take regularly, Jack?
regular co-host for 3.5 years.
This is what I have to look forward to now.
Yeah,
Metamucil.
no, Metamucils. There's
This
the
show
trick.
is sponsored by Metamucil.
Get
Cheers to
get the orange flavored Metamucil and mix it with your orange juice. It's you know.
Gotta have my Metamucil and orange juice in the morning.
And I won't tell on you if you add some vodka to it. It's champagne if you want to be high class. Where the hell have
You
we
can
gone?
make anything into a cocktail.
Damn right.
You need to make some cocktails for my kids to take their medicine. You're like, mix a little Cointreau and vodka with that. Benadryl, yeah.
Dude, you some seriously a little Kahlua. Oh man, there's the way to go with kids. I mean, so I've heard, Kahlua is magical. I've heard that the kids don't do too well until
Kahlua
they're
is magical.
teenagers. Until they're teenagers with the Southern Comfort. Man, I'll never forget that night. The parts that I can still remember, at least. So anyway,
Kahlua is magical when you put roofies in it.
my second story, I'm just not going to talk about because Larry should be here to talk about the FTDI apocalypse, the the chip bricking nonsense with Windows Update, with counterfeit chips being bricked where company decided they wanted to break shit. So that's one for Larry next week. What else? Let's see.
I had a bunch of stories in there. One was a segue from my previous story. Leaving your passwords at the checkout desk. We haven't had a ridiculous story about how stupid users can be like this in a while. Hotels, restaurants, and airports used to offer customers free tablets while using their facilities, but recently when attending an event, he had a chance to use a free iPad in his room. That is how commonplace tablets have become, that you get a free one in your room. I'm assuming you get charged for it if it goes missing.
I'm guessing so, and I'm guessing this isn't Motel 6.
Yeah. But if you look in the history of this iPad, people have logged on to all of their shit and left their credentials on the system. Names, emails, cached on the device. Maybe not passwords too. Yeah, it looks like some passwords. Personal contact information, iMessages, and even a pregnancy calculator with real information. That's awesome.
Pregnancy calculator.
That's like to see how far along you are with
Oh, okay.
your
So
pregnancy.
they didn't pee on the iPad to see if it turned blue.
I'm sure there's an app for that, but
Never mind. And now on to traveling with blacklight story. No,
there is a difference between pregnancy tests, by the way, in case you didn't know this. Like, there was a stark difference between. My wife knows, like, the exact one to buy. And fear the day that I have had to go to the store to buy them, I always buy the wrong one. Always. She could be like a pregnancy test consultant. She knows. And it's not always the most
I'm just going to
expensive.
say the urologist and his scissors. And that's all I'm saying. This becomes a non-issue.
Are you referring to my story
I'm
specifically?
mine, just mine. Just saying, this becomes a non-issue because if children protrude from any part of your spouse after that morning on the cold table, what are you shaking your head for over there?
You know, I'm not a medical professional, but even I know scissors need to be sharp. Okay, I mean that's pretty much a general rule in life for whatever you're using scissors for. Like, there's just no good usage.
How many people are
for
trying
Telnet or dull scissors? All right, that's where I put.
How many
Telnet
people are
D
trying?
and-
How many guys are commuting to work with their legs crossed now, hoping they don't have to shift gears because the clutch is over there? Because anyway.
Anyway, I'll tell my dull scissor story after the show. It's hilarious. It's not for on air.
Not for on air. I want you guys to think about what it means that a story is inappropriate for us to tell on air. Just think about.
Just want to throw that out there. It is inappropriate.
Yes.
It's a personal tale, Jack.
So anyway, what's this about sandworms, Paul?
I don't know. I was reading. There's a 0-day vulnerability in Windows, apparently. I feel like sometimes we get to the point where even security professionals are like, it's pretty damn hard to exploit Windows. And some of us might believe that for a very short period of time, and I think that some of us in security may be sitting on Windows 0 days and just want people to have the impression that finding new ones are really hard. But here is the instance of the Sandworm where in the OLE file format.
This is just getting even.
It just
with
tricks
computers
Windows.
because this is. I mean, this has been reported as a 0 day in PowerPoint, and it's actually not a 0 day in PowerPoint.
No.
But PowerPoint can be used to leverage this because, it's, as you said, it's an OLE.
And I had some better stories in here, and I don't know what happened to them. I apologize for that.
But with the thing that it's like, man, PowerPoint has been used as a 0 day against human intelligence for decades now. It's only fair that it be used as a 0 day against our computers finally, because it's been a weapon against us. Even though I actually think you can use it well, but it's like a lot of tools, you know. You can clear a forest with that axe, or you can chop people's heads off, and most people chop your brains off with that.
But this vulnerability has been around, they said, since 2009 or something. Is that true? Did I read that right?
Yeah, it's like these SSH phones. Like, oh, it turns out this has been around forever.
The bash vulnerability, OpenSSL vulnerability.
Yeah, OLE, it's object linking and embedding. Let's see. Is there any exposure in linking and embedding objects? I mean, let's not even go into details. What does OLE stand for? Object, linking, and embedding. Okay. Could there be an issue with embedding and linking objects? Survey says, no shit, yes. My story number 5, if you want to read that makes you feel, I don't know, maybe. Depends on your cynicism
You want to read
level.
that wakes you up, like Wake Up Marine.
Right.
That's our
Wake Up Marine.
Wake Up Marine.
There's
got to be a song. There's a song in there.
GCHQ.
Not that I want to hear you sing,
right,
but
no.
maybe Larry.
Larry.
Yeah.
GCHQ, which for those who don't know is kind of the UK's NSA, is the closest parallel. Their departing head had a valedictory speech. Full transcript is linked in, which he just gave a couple of days ago. And it is the kind of thing that you want intelligence folks to tell us. You can be as cynical as you want. I encourage, I don't know about cynicism, but skepticism. But it is the kind of thing that I would like to believe in. Because if you've been in this business for any length of time, you've probably interacted with intelligence people or law enforcement beyond. somebody in a cruiser with a badge, and a lot of those folks are really good people trying to do good work and doing good work. And that's the way NSA has been for years. That's been really driven home with the Shoulders of InfoSec project and the history stuff I've done. And as I've said before, I think the politics falls down. But this is it strikes me as being a very British speech and a very eloquent speech. And, he admits things aren't perfect. So I thought that was a good read. I encourage a bit of skepticism for anything that you read, but that one I think is possibly grounds for a little bit of if not optimism, hope. Or really good social engineering, because I fell for it.
Nice. I can't play music into the stream from my laptop. Dope. There's no way to make that happen either. Easily. Is there? All right, hold on. I'll work on that. Jack, talk about another story or something.
I'm out. Oh, so I've got one that I just threw in, just because I tend to be skeptical of vendor stories, but since this one came from Akamai and their Prolexic division, and we've all kind of seen the news stories, third quarter of this year, record attack volumes through distributed denial of service, DDoS, is getting to be a bigger and bigger and bigger problem. And it's a mess, and it's one of those where I don't know what to tell you. If people throw enough bandwidth at you, you're screwed, and then you have to spend money to be unscrewed. But then once you spend the money, you don't have it anymore, and so you're still screwed.
Sorry, Jack.
Anyway, so, man, it's expected that it's not going to get better. It's one of those many things that just ain't going to get better. Speaking of things that aren't going to get better,
tune in next week.
next week. As long as I'm, whatever. So, for those of you of the CISSP persuasion, the only reason I keep giving them my $85 a year is so I can be a pain in the ass from the inside. Remember that we're just a week or 10 days from voting, and there are people that actually care. I mean, I think they're idealistic, and I like to encourage naive young idealists to beat their heads against walls that I'm tired of beating against. So actually, we could maybe get some of those folks to chat. But yeah, that's as long as the
running
government.
This year?
So there are folks like Jen Javish, and Allie is running, and is Wim up for re-election? I mean, there's some folks that we know that are running, trying to make a difference.
It was pretty controversial when it first came out.
And
that folks from like the community that wanted change and stuff like that.
I as critical as I have been of ISC squared over the years and CISSP, there are people trying to make a difference, and there are signs of progress, and that's by my high standards. I'm not saying I'm ready to remove reluctant from in front of CISSP everywhere I have it, but there are folks trying to make a difference, and I think that they're
I will crap my pants if you remove that from your...
Well, the only way I would remove reluctant CISSP from mine is if I snap and renounce it. And don't worry, if I do that, it'll be filmed. I mean, if you're going to make an ass of yourself, do it big time, and that's
do
a
it
skill
in public
I have.
on camera, like we do every week.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. If I ever snap, I'll hold it until, I don't know, fail panel at DEF CON or something. But anyway, so yeah, there's some folks running. Pay attention, vote. And you have all of November to vote, but I'll be here next week. But as a reminder, some people in Congress are less dumb about things that impact our lives than others. Trey Ford and Space Rogue and others are working on that. So your reminder that a couple of weeks away is Election Day, and I always get sneered at by the ladies at the bake sale when I go to vote because I always suggest they sell clothespins so I can hold my nose and vote at the same time, but that's whatever. Do your civic duty. It doesn't hurt that much. And you get one of those cool stickers. You can walk around looking like a dork with a sign that says, I voted. But not this year because I'll be in Seattle because Microsoft doesn't know that it's election day that week or doesn't care.
Gomez doesn't care.
That's the one.
All right, with that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and wrap up the show on the cue on the music I just gave, and I'll explain that in a moment when we take a break to the music.